A real woman is secure in her own skin. She is one with herself mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, regardless of what anybody else thinks.
My idea of a real woman is a woman that appreciates basically what God gave her, or gave us. We know that that gravity's going to set in. We're going to get crow's feet. We're going to gray. You know, we're going to get what things are going to sag. We're going to put on weight, and we just embrace it. That's what a real woman is. You know, we embrace the change.
How does that definition compare to the American society's portrayal of women?
It's a complete contradiction of what is shown on magazines and TV with airbrush and Photoshop and all of these unrealistic ideals that women have to meet.
American society portrays women as materialistic, shallow, ghetto. Not really good.
I think American society tries to stereotype women, that there's this idea of a businesswoman and what she's supposed to do, and then there's an idea of what the housewife should be, and then there's that one-off hot chick, you know, woman. And so if you don't really fall into those stereotypes of what that idea is, I think that that's where you get into falling outside of ideals.
You know, a certain length of hair or a certain skin tone or a certain body type. I think that's changing, but in very small ways. I think there's still the ideal of, you know, sort of like an hourglass figure, lighter skin tone, longer, straighter hair, maybe a little wave in it now, but you know, perfect this, perfect that.
Well, they want us to be the opposite. They want us to be youthful forever, you know, skinny, look like a bunch of 21, 22-year-olds even when we're 80. And that's how society sees us. That's how society wants to see us. And unfortunately, that's not realistic.
Growing up in the 70s and late 60s and early 70s, and I think a lot of the fashion magazines were kind of taking off at that time in terms of the twiggy look and things like that. So everything was very slender and skinny, not to today's standards. It still was, there were still hips and legs and rear ends and things like that. So I think the kind of movement towards more skinny figures and very skinny figures and kind of promoting some of the too skinny looks that people have, I think has been really detrimental. However, I'm really encouraged to see things like the Dove commercials and some of the companies who are recognizing that what's really out there is a lot different than what people are portraying.
I think American society tries to make you into that perfect little mold, and I think being 59 now, I think I used to do that, to try to fit in that certain mold, the perfect person and all like that. But I think as you get older, you realize you accept who you are and be happy who you are. If not, it'll be a lost battle. Keep on trying to be this perfect person, and it's never going to happen.
You know, I think there's some similarities in how society portrays beauty in women. I think that we put a lot into the way a woman looks, the way she acts, the way she dresses, you know, how straight her hair is, how kinky her hair is, how curly her hair is. I think where there's the disconnect is there is that persona that you must be tall, you must be thin, you must have long hair, it must be straight, it must be thin, easy to comb through. I really think that, you know, that's the difference between what I feel beauty is in a woman versus how America portrays beauty in a woman.
Well, I think a lot of women these days listen to too much, you know, about the movie stars and how they, you know, movie stars are movie stars. They're going to live in Hollywood, but we live in the real world here. So, you know, you have to just be true to yourself and live with what's inside of your heart.
America seems to portray women as almost unreal.
And as a woman living in America, how much does the media or pop culture influence how you feel about yourself?
I think growing up when I was younger, the media did have a big effect in the magazines that I bought. I wanted to be that perfect person. But then as I grew older, I realized that that wasn't important, that the spiritual part of me was the most important thing. And I think that's what makes you beautiful. I think you shine and look beautiful.
No matter how healthy you are or how much you go to the gym, you're never going to look like the woman on the magazine because she's not real. That woman doesn't exist.
But now we're in this kind of crazy idea that, you know, as soon as women have babies, that's great, but with the celebrity culture we have this whole idea of bouncing back really quickly. And, you know, whether it's your body or your career or your, you know, your life is all perfect all of a sudden. And to me, that doesn't really jive with what it's like to be a real mom. You know, so, you know, there's like this whole Heidi Klum idea of 6 weeks after you give birth, you can be on the runway in a Victoria's Secret bikini walking down the runway and nobody could tell you had a baby because your body is still so, you know, taut and, you know, enviable. I don't even watch videos anymore. And part of that is because I didn't look like anybody in the video. And look, I've always known that my derriere could use a boost, but it's not gonna happen. Like, genetics did not deal me those cards. But I would feel kind of down about myself, like, damn, you know, like I had nothing to offer all of a sudden because I was a little flat in the back, you know? And I never was foolish enough to do anything sort of drastic about that. You know, I never tried to like wear butt pad or, you know, now it's in 2012, it's this whole thing about injections, and thank God that wasn't particularly around, but that does kind of demonstrate the lengths that people are going to achieve certain looks. And I can definitely relate on that. Pop culture is sort of everywhere. So even though there are some people who kind of shy away from it, they do have a peripheral like understanding of what's going on in pop culture. You can't get away from it, you know, unless you sort of live like a hermit and you never put on your computer, or you never watch television, or you never go down the street and see a billboard. You know, like, it's going to be in your world in some fashion. So I think it's hard to avoid something that's so ubiquitous. So again, it can even just kind of filter in without you being obsessed with it.
But there are times when I can compare, and it's more because it's always out there. There's always that feeling that somebody has a different standard. I just have to remember to keep my own standard and stick to it.
But you know what's funny is I'm 46, not 13 or not 16. So to me, pop culture is, I could see it, me falling for that when I was younger, because I was clay and was always looking for somebody to guide me, be it fashion, music, hair, makeup, you know. But I think once we get older and we know who we are, I think we're out of that pop culture stage. I mean, I think most of us are. I think we're, you know, we figured out what we like, what we don't like, and I don't think that society is determining that for us. I think we have our own minds now, and we're old enough to know what we like and what we don't like. And
now that I'm 57, no. Even in my younger days, I really didn't pay much attention to the media. I just always was myself.
I definitely think for those who already struggle with who they are, I definitely think it does have an effect on them. I think it brings their morale down. I think it brings their self-esteem down. I think that, you know, they strive to be something that they may not ever get to. So you think about the times when you're in a beauty salon and someone comes in with a picture and says, I want to look just like this person. Maybe it's, you know, I want to look just like Beyonce, but maybe they look more like Whoopi Goldberg. Realistically, they are not going to get there. But, you know, there is this embedded hope, you know, with pop culture that you can be that way. And so I think that's what really hurts us as Americans. You know, it hurts us as women.
Well, my self-esteem, no. I really don't care what anybody else has to say. But then I look at the youth, like my daughter's age, and they look at the images on television and question why they're different, and question why they can't have things like these people, or they can't have their hair like the people on television, or they don't quite grasp how society is built yet. So they're looking at television, they're getting false images of how life should be and can be, because it should be multiple ways, not just one way.
I see it often enough to think, well, maybe it is attainable. So it has an effect on my self-esteem because there are ways I think I should look that I don't. Like, I feel like I should be able to wear 6-inch heels all day. What's wrong with my legs?
Yeah, I think for younger women, definitely, they're always trying to be a certain size. My sister goes through it. She's tall and beautiful and thinks that she weighs too much, and it doesn't make any sense. And I think that if you're like reading those magazines and watching movies and listening to music, you do think you're supposed to look like that. And nobody tells you, like, you have to look at those pictures of what they look like when they don't have makeup on. Like, nobody tells you that, okay, you know, all that hair that Beyonce has isn't really hers. She paid good money for that, you know, or that they have makeup artists that come to their house and put their makeup on before they even go out to eat, you know, because they know that they're going to be photographed. So I think it's really hard for young people.
On my personal self-esteem, no, because I know who I am and I know whose I am. So I stand strong on knowing that, who I am. I don't fall prey to the image of what is sexy, the image of what is acceptable, because again, I think society has portrayed women as sex symbols. But self-esteem is just that. You learn those things early age. So if you're told as a young lady that you're important, that you're valuable, that you have something to contribute, then you oftentimes take that with you. And the opposite of that is if you're not told that you're worthy, you're valuable, you oftentimes take that with you as well. So it just depends to me on your upbringing, which plays a great part in a person's self-esteem, but it's always something that you can work on, and we're all a work in progress.
I think it used to have a personal effect on my self-esteem when I was more impressionable, when I was younger, when I was very shaped by what I saw on TV and in magazines, and even as a little girl growing up and being told fairy tales and set this image of what being a woman is supposed to be like and what I'm supposed to look like and what's good enough and what's not good enough.
I think a lot of women buy into it because of what I said, which is they see it constantly. So it makes you feel like, well, this should be normal. Maybe I'm the one that's not normal. If every woman on the cover of every magazine that you see while you're just trying to buy like groceries is good looking in a bikini, or has boobs and a small waist, or I don't know, wears makeup that makes her look natural, but why can't she just look natural? I don't know. I think people buy into it because they see it so often and it's thrown in their faces constantly. I mean, you look at any commercial, maybe not local car commercials, but you know, any national commercial, and usually a woman is done up in a way that is supposed to be sexy, even if the product that's selling isn't sexy. It could be like Doritos, but for some reason she has on a shirt that's form-fitting and has on lipstick. I don't know why you'd wear lipstick to eat Doritos, but apparently some women do.
I think it's just a money thing. You know, women want to get plastic surgery done, and you know, they just want to look like a movie star all the time, and you can't live like that to have a happiness into your world.
Pop culture, they're on the TV day in and day out. You know, we pay lots of money to go see them in concert. We pay money to go see them in the movies. So I think that for us, this is just a normal way of life, and we don't, you know, I think some women don't know that there isn't any other way. And that, you know, while these people, they might have the style, sass, charisma, you know, they're also in the limelight. So if you think about it, what would they look like if they weren't in the limelight? And is that somebody that we would truly want to emulate?
Like, when we're buying into it, somebody didn't tell us that it's okay to grow old, or somebody didn't teach us that it's okay when things sag. That doesn't make you any less beautiful. It doesn't make you any less a woman. If you're 50 years old, if you're 60 years old, you know, things are going to happen. You're still beautiful. You're still going to be this. You're still going to be that. It's just somebody didn't tell us that. Somebody didn't teach us that we can grow old. So we're still thinking that we got to look like the 13-year-olds because that's how we attract the men.
I mean, I do think it's normal to compare yourself to what you see on TV and things like that. I just think that it's gotten so ridiculous. Like, you think in the 60s, Marilyn Monroe was a size 12. and that's the average size of a woman today. And so it's just that you're looking at these people who are so much thinner now, and it's just not healthy. And I think it's normal to compare yourself to what you see. I just don't know. I don't know how you change that without changing what you see in the culture.
People in the media, movie stars. I love seeing movie stars who are normal size. I love seeing movie stars who aren't trying to lose, you know, their baby weight right after they have a baby, or they just look normal. And I'm always astounded at a lot of the media attention when they don't lose the baby weight right away. And I love it when somebody can just stand up and say, I'm just being myself and just enjoying myself. I think those are the things that bring back to everyday life what's normal and what should be the goal set. And I think that many girls today I think things are shifting a little bit also, not just because of Dove commercials, but also because athletes, if you look at gymnasts went through a phase where they were quote-unquote normal looking for gymnasts, then they got overly skinny, then a lot of the coaches turned and said they need to have muscle weight, they need to look normal.
Women buy into these ideas because they have low self-esteem issues, they don't have self-confidence, and because, again, they think that that's acceptable, and that's the only way they can be accepted, by showing their bodies, when in fact, if they realize they're beautiful within, then they don't have to feel that way. They can build up their own confidence and realize the strength that they have as a young lady, and to grow into that as a young woman. Many women are afraid to go against the grain and or swim upstream, which is not usually the popular side to be on. But when you figure out what your purpose is, what your calling is, it usually isn't pretty hard to go against the grain. You know, once you fall into line with what it is you're supposed to do, a lot of times they want acceptance, but unfortunately they realize they're being accepted into the wrong spaces and the wrong crowds. Anytime you have to become less of who God intended you to be to fit in with other people, I would say that's not a good mix.
We are taught at such a young age, or we have this need to be viewed as pretty, or to be viewed a certain way. And I think that we're particularly susceptible because if you don't fit into this image of what beauty is supposed to be, according to America, especially like this, you know, you're not a model, or you don't have long legs, you don't have long hair, you don't have these characteristics, you don't have money, or, you know, if you're not in that box, then you feel like an outcast. You feel like you need to work to look like something that may not be anything with what you look like.
Like, you can see that in Essence magazine, you can see that in Ebony magazine. But now there's a lot of blogs and stuff. So for instance, Peace, Love, and Pretty Things, like a blog that our friend has. I really like it because she's so positive all the time. You know, it's two women. They're so positive all the time, but they're not sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not they're not like, oh, they're realistic.
Yeah.
So they'll say, look, I was feeling ugly today, but I know that I'm not ugly. You know what I mean? It's a feeling, it'll pass, you know, or just have like very encouraging things. And they represent a lot of different types of women on the blog. And I just think that it's like a nice thing to look at every so often, because you're just like, yeah, you know, all right, I don't look like a Kardashian, I don't like Halle Berry, I don't like such and such, but you know, like, I'm cool, you know. And neither do these women, but I like these women too. So it just kind of expands. I think they help kind of expand the idea of what it means to be a woman, because they deal with a lot of issues, and also just beauty in general. So looking for more positive things, I think, also kind of helps our perspective on it.
It's not that many women who embrace and support the next woman because they're either afraid of it, they don't know how, or some just don't care.
I don't know that most women feel that way. When I go out to the grocery store, I see women that feel like they need to look like what's on the cover. I see what Rihanna wore last week on a chicken aisle 3. I don't think a lot of women feel like how they're comfortable is beautiful. I don't know, on Facebook I see a lot of people in these like natural hair groups, and natural's beautiful, and it's almost like they have to identify themselves because they're natural, which is now unnatural, and they make a big deal about going natural. And it's like, what is such a big deal about just getting up, rolling out of bed, going like this, and walking out the door? I don't understand why why that is even becoming trendy, or why it needs to be announced that you're natural. Because if you are something, it will shine through.
A lot of women struggle with how they look and who they are, and being comfortable in their own skin. So I think because of that is the reason why there's so much negativity amongst women, and there's so much competition, not really understanding that, we're all beautiful in our own right.
I think women are competitive. Even I think with me now, if I see someone who's got a better haircut or something like that, I want to get something better, or dye my hair a different color. I think it's just women in general. Then again, you have to realize that we can't look like that other person. We are who we are. We can't change that. And every wrinkle you have, you earned it. So just be happy. Be happy for what you are.
I think if you're lucky, you find a group of women that you can do that with. Unfortunately, it's always a small group.
Right? Especially given where I work. I work for a financial firm, and it's very male-centric in a lot of ways. Culturally, women are trying to sort of help each other and hold each other's hands and grow each other in different ways. And we now have an internal women's forum, and that's one of our topics, is how do we sort of embrace each other and help them, not only with careers, but also with work-family balance and things like that, that build the confidence so that people don't have to focus on looks, and they don't have to focus on some of those things. Looks are not important here. They're not valued here per se, but I think it's important just in different contexts for people to learn how to support each other. I went to an all-girls high school. We still support each other very, very much, and we're very concerned with, this was, in the 1972 to 1976, and this was at the height of women's movement kind of really kicking off and getting some steam. We had some very strong female role models in our school, which was very important.
I think it goes back to the competition aspect. I think it starts when you're young, and if you have women around you that are supportive, and you have a network of aunties, mothers, whatever that support network is, if you grow up in an environment where it's competitive and you're being broken down, you're going to take that into your adulthood, and you're going to be that same way with other women. It is something that I think is very, very prevalent, particularly in our culture and Black culture. A lot of negativity and competition are being told, sometimes it's even, oh, you're too dark, you're too this, you're too that. And that stays in you to where when you become an adult, all you know how to do is criticize. You don't know how to lift up, and you don't know how to show support and love.
To me, beauty isn't just one thing. It's the whole package put together. Doesn't mean shape, size, whatever, but more of a neatness, smiling, just attractiveness, the whole package, that everything looks together.
My personal definition of beauty is someone who accepts who they are and feels comfortable as they are.
Obviously what's on the outside, but also what's on the inside, personality, sense of humor, things like that.
I'm not even sure what beauty is anymore. When I hear beauty, I think of like landscapes. I don't even think of people. I guess because whenever I'm out anywhere, it appears everyone wants to be sexy, and that's a new beautiful. I don't know, I recently took a American Film Classics class, and a lot of the women in there were dressed up all the time. They wore heels, they had nice suits on, they just had their hair done, but it wasn't overly done, it was more natural, and I think that that is really cool.
I think beauty is sort of a spiritual thing. If you love yourself, you love God, your neighbor, and all like that, I think that's the real beauty, and you'll find happiness just to love everybody, and that's true beauty.
Beauty to me is beauty within, how you portray yourself, and beauty on the outside, how well you take care of yourself, your exercise, your diet, and just your appearance in general.
I think beauty is just who you are, your personality, and you know, you just got to live each day to its fullest and just, you know, appreciate what's given to you each day, and that's beauty.
Being exactly who you are and being comfortable with the skin that God created you to be in, and just loving who you are and accepting yourself for who you are and not caring about what other people say.
When a person is really pretty on the inside, when they have a heart that is compassionate and loving and kind, and to me, regardless of what their outward appearance looks like, that makes them appear more beautiful.
If moms, if we have a female role model to tell us that, you know, beauty is, and teach us young what beauty is, then as we get older, then we won't be so fearful of getting older. And I think it's all about like I think people think beauty is youth, but it's not. Beauty has nothing to do with age. And I just think that if we're taught, if our female role models do a better job at teaching us exactly what beauty is, then we can embrace it and we won't be scared of it, of getting old.
I think as I get older, it changes. I think it used to be that I thought you had to you had to weigh a certain amount. You had to be tall. I'm not tall. So you're like tall and thin, and you had long hair and it flowed. And now it's changed to like just being comfortable with your body and knowing your body. So it's like, since I started exercising, now I've realized that my body can do certain things, and that, I think that's beautiful. I trained for a 5K, and I finished, and it was really hard, but it felt good, and it feels good now to like be able to go and run for more than 5 minutes without passing out, you know, and being able to like. And in the past, I thought, and really before I started the 5K, this is funny, I thought I was going to do this 5K, I was going to train for these 8 weeks, and that the pounds were going to melt off my body. And then I realized that no, when you're exercising and running like that, you're starving. So I ate more. I didn't lose anything.
My personal definition of beauty is somebody who has strength, humor, compassion, who can smile at any kind of situation, who can walk into a room and get to know people right away, confidence. Those are my definitions of beauty. That's what makes me smile when I see people out. People, like I said, who can dare to wear different colors, different bright things to call attention to themselves, or people who don't call attention to themselves visually, but may do so socially. That to me is beauty.